My name is Ayantika Noradana, and I'm the social media chair of the technology division of the American Planning Association. And today, as part of our YouTube series, we're going to talk to Clinton Andrews, who's a professor at the Bloustein School at Rutgers University, and we're going to talk about what he does and how he uses technology in his own work. So to start off, Professor Andrews, what's your background and how did you come to find planning as a career?
Okay, I'm essentially an engineer who turned bad and got interested in the context for things like buildings and uh, why do some things get built and others not, and that led me into the questions of how does society allocate its resources. And so I guess I came of age during the first energy crisis during the 1970s, and that influenced what I studied in college and what I did as my first job after college, which was really design work. And then I went back to grad school in public policy, technology and policy, and then urban planning for the doctorate.
Okay, and what is your official title at Rutgers? What department are you in within planning?
Okay, well, I'm a professor of urban planning and policy development and also associate dean for planning and new initiatives. And I am part of what we call our environmental and physical planning concentration here. Additionally, I direct the Rutgers Center for Green Building, and so that provides a vehicle for doing research on the cutting edge in sort of greening up our built environment.
So how have you used or seen technology used within your field?
Um, there are really a bunch of ways, and most of the time technology ends up meaning computers and telecommunications. And at the research level, what we're using technology for is in the sort of the building information modeling world, so that it's many of us are familiar with using CAD products to make designs, and what we are doing is building simulation tools that allow you to do what-if analysis. What if we designed things this way? How would people feel about it? What if we tweaked the design a little bit? How would people likely respond? And so we're bringing human behavior to the fore and trying to persuade architects, engineers, and planners to pay attention not only to the technical details of how high is the ceiling and what color is the window and how wide is the sidewalk, but how are people likely to experience that environment? So that's the first way, is to do modeling before we actually build anything, and hopefully we can make our mistakes in the model and not have to live with the results for the next century. The second way that has really been coming on strong in the last decade or so is relying on technology to enhance public participation in decisions. And so instead of having the technocratic planner tell everybody what the right answer is and then argue about it in court, the idea is that we can get a little bit of participatory design happening. We can extend the charrette concept beyond those who managed to get to the meeting on that summer afternoon to a much broader base. And we can also really start to take advantage of the knowledge that people have about their own neighborhoods, and to do things like participatory GIS, which has been a very important tool. We're just in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy here in New Jersey, and there's an awful lot that people know about their neighborhoods, about the status of things and which areas are passable and which buildings are habitable, that the authorities probably won't know for years. And being able to get that information out and let it inform how we try to design things like disaster response is hugely important and a big change from even a decade ago.
Do you think having the public participate sometimes makes it challenging to have so many voices come together on an issue, or do you find it more helpful?
So far, it's been more helpful in my experience. There are times when the cacophony can get pretty great, but that's also true in traditional public meetings. And in fact, it's even worse there because it gets a little more physical. If you have people literally shouting you down, you're not going to get your argument out. In an electronic realm, the nature of the conversation changes, and the problem becomes more one of people speaking past one another, so that you can get the people who really don't like the idea of that, whether it's a new school or a new power plant coming in next door, um, uh, uh, filling up the sort of the airspace with their arguments and their vitriol. And there is always a question of can we get a balanced conversation going? And to my mind, the way you'll deal with that is by having some active moderation of, if it's an electronic forum, of that forum. Just like in a public meeting, you want to have somebody who is a decent facilitator, who can persuade people that, okay, we've heard that point of view 10 times, now let's make sure we have an alternative point of view presented so that the record reflects the range of opinions.
And how do you moderate an online conversation? Because that sounds like something that would be very challenging, because it's very easy to direct conversation when you've got people in front of you and you can say, okay, thanks for your thoughts, and you move on to the next person. But how is that done in the technological sphere?
In some ways it's easier because because typically someone who sets up an online channel, whether it's a blog with the opportunity to comment, or whether it's a participatory GIS where you can upload sticky notes onto a map, there's usually someone who can turn things off. If you have one person who's dominating too much, you can throttle that person down a little bit. The online challenge, I think, it's not so much moderating the person who's talking too much, it's attracting the other points of view to that, to your platform, that becomes a little more of a challenge.
Okay. Let's see. Do you think Rutgers as a university uses a lot of technology in the classroom and in planning? Is it something you're always trying to keep up with?
It is. We, in fact, our school within Rutgers has someone whose job title is instructional technologist, and their purpose is to make sure that the faculty know about the latest and greatest tools. And so our courses all, instead of having a reading room where you go and check out a copy of the book that you're supposed to read for next week's class, it's all online. It's all PDFs that are at a password-protected website. And we also students submit all of their problem sets and term papers through that site, so that we are approaching this ideal of a paperless course. And it's not that, that's nice from an environmental point of view, I guess, but I think what's more valuable is that it makes much better use of the students' time. They can do their homework at home, at school, wherever they are. They don't have to not do the readings because they didn't get to the library before the library closed. Instead, they can just go to what's called our Sakai site and download that stuff and then upload their responses. There are a number of other areas that we're seeing these technologies infiltrate the classroom. And one is, if you're in a big lecture class, one of the big challenges is to get participation from the students in the back row. And so we've invested in these it's sort of a clicker technology where every student gets to sort of press yes or no, or enter 1, 2, or 3, and essentially we can vote on what the answers are in class after we've had some discussion about a topic. And it's a way for people to express themselves, and also for the instructor to get a sense of, do people understand what it was I just said? It really helps us gauge how we're doing.
And outside of the classroom, in terms of technology that they would use as future urban planners or policymakers, do you think that's, like the stuff you talked about, would you say that's integrated into the classroom as well, or through internships?
It's integrated into certain courses, so that if you're interested in geographic information systems, then we have a whole course sequence, and the advanced courses in that sequence make sure that you know WebGIS, because it's while creating thematic maps and doing sort of mapping that's required for legal purposes is an important part of the bread and butter of planners. It's by no means the cutting edge of that technology, and we expect that our graduates are going to be able to contribute to the cutting edge.
Okay.
And so that means WebGIS. It means understanding some of the open platforms. It means building simulation models that sit on top of a GIS platform, so that you can do impact analysis, or you can do exploration of design alternatives using those tools.
Okay. Well, I think that's about all the time we have today, but thank you so much for agreeing to talk with me, and I really appreciate your input, especially as someone who wants to become an urban planner. I really appreciate you taking the time to educate not only myself, but the public and the rest of the people who are interested in EPA technology.
Sure, I'm glad to do it.
Thank you.
Okay, see you.